Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business here at the Career Education Convention in Indianapolis, Indiana, put on by our great friends at the Career Education College and University group, who are bringing together, who always bring together on a yearly basis, those serving career college students. We would not be here without our amazing partner and sponsor, Lead Squared. And I've got a great Lead Squared with me right here. He's Douglas Carlson. He's head of partnerships at Lead Squared. Douglas, welcome back again and again and again, my friend. Now you're getting a little taste of what it's like to do many of these in a row. I think we've got 9 or 10 today, so you're going to be tired, my friend.
Oh, this is fun. Also, I like Lead Squarer. That works out. It's like
Lead Squarer.
I'm a I'm a Coloradan, so it's always kind of funny to. What's the plural?
I don't know. That's why you have to correct me. Is it Lead Squared or is it something else?
Oh, let's go Lead Squared.
I actually don't know. Maybe our guest will know. Probably not, but we'll find out what she's doing anyway. Let's make sure we get her in here appropriately. She's Dana Hutton. She's Chief Marketing and Enrollment Management Officer at Southeastern College. Dana, welcome to the mic. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Thanks for having me today.
So the first thing I'll say is when you're in charge of marketing and enrollment, which I do find that many separate those roles. And you get this guy, marketing didn't get us enough leads, and admissions didn't convert enough of the people. You get the crisscross. So I love to see somebody who's overseeing both, because I think it's a critical mistake in higher ed to separate those. But they're really hard jobs. How are you doing? How are things going? And tell us about Southeastern College.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's really a busy job, as you know. I mean, you have so many moving parts.
Never stops.
Yeah, but it's what makes me tick. I absolutely love what I do. When it comes down to, the admissions, that's where I started. So I started in admissions in 2007. So just a few years ago.
You know what you're doing.
And then I finally made my way into marketing. So I'm still learning something every day when it comes to marketing, because it's forever evolving, right?
Yep.
So therefore, admissions is also evolving. But yeah, I mean, when people have it separated, you are going to have that friction. You are going to have that, finger pointing, unless you're able to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
And I'm actually working with someone I met here at the convention, just trying to help them bridge the gap right now, because they're kind of experiencing the same thing. So just trying to show some of the things that I've learned along the way and share some of that information.
So can you tell us a little bit about Southeastern College? So you obviously span a couple different states, but would love to just learn a little bit more. What are your big programs? Where are your bigger and smaller schools? Just tell us a little bit more.
Absolutely. So Southeastern College, we do span across North Carolina, South Carolina, and we also have campuses, of course, in Florida.
Yep.
Our main campus in Florida is the West Palm Beach campus.
Ooh,
and then
nice location.
I was going to say it could be worse.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then we have the Miami Lakes campus, which is a branch campus. Then we also have locations in Charlotte, Charleston, and Columbia. So out of the 5 campuses, we are mostly allied health. We have really expanded our program portfolio in the Carolinas over the past year and a half. So we have degree granting there now. We are offering up to a bachelor's degree in 2 of our campuses in Florida, which is exciting.
Wow.
And our larger programs, of course, are like the nursing with practical nursing and registered nursing. Sonography is a very big popular program with us.
Oh,
so,
interesting.
Yeah. And then we just started an early childhood education program in the West Palm Beach and Miami campuses, and we offer up to a bachelor's degree program there. And we own a Primrose preschool. So there's a big need for that post-pandemic.
This is music to my ears. I have almost a 3-year-old, and my goodness, just one, the cost of it, but also two, just the availability. Like at any price point, you need to get on a list, and maybe you'll get in, maybe not. So thank you for making more availability. Yeah.
Absolutely. It was a huge need for our students when we saw that. Post-pandemic, we were working tirelessly trying to find places for them to have childcare, because as we were, coming back, but a lot of those places had gone out of business during that time. So huge need there. Obviously, we know that there's a big need for nurses, projected shortage of nurses. And in the state of Florida, we, with the private education there, we have about 960 schools that belong to the FAPS organization.
Yep.
But we produce about 60% of the nurses in the state of Florida.
No kidding. Wow. That's a great stat.
Yes. So,
what coming back to a little bit of the operational piece, we have such a diverse audience here at the podcast. We've got many of your colleagues from nonprofit higher education, and I've worked in both career education and in nonprofits. And one of the things I found is that in schools that, your 200-year-old nonprofit higher ed institution, they've got one way of thinking about enrollment and marketing. And the career college side, it's very different. One of the differences is when you're at a multi-campus institution, getting everybody to do the same thing all of the time is a challenge that you'll never feel if you only work in one campus, if one institution. You've got people on site. Typically, you're all moving them around and doing the same thing, but you've got to manage multiple locations, probably have to travel to those locations to make sure there's compliance going on, make sure that the experience you get in West Palm Beach is the same one that you get if it's the same program in another location. Can you talk about that complication and how you manage all of that, keep it all together?
Sure. Yeah. One of the things that I'm a firm believer in is transparency. I think that when we withhold information from our people, it causes,
resentment.
Yeah. The nervousness and so one of the things that I do every single day is I huddle with my directors of admissions. So I huddle with them for 20 minutes, no longer, and everybody knows that they got to be there at 11:30 and it ends at 11:50. But I huddle with them because I want them to have communication every single day, whether they're in North Carolina or South Carolina or Florida. And it's actually become something that we really look forward to. We have kind of a structured way of how they come on. They share with me like visitors that are coming to the campus, things that they're working on, exciting things that are happening at the campus that day, and any kind of success story, because I want it to be exciting. That's the way we start off our day, and it's kind of even gone into a place where sometimes we even vent, right? Like maybe you're having a difficult employee or something like that you're struggling with, and they're like, how would you handle that? And it's not always about how I would handle it, but
Sure.
There's that peer interaction too. So there's different things that come from that particular huddle. But we're also talking about compliance. Sometimes we're also talking about, hey, have you listened to recorded calls today? If not, and you have that time, let's do it this afternoon. So communication is just key. And always, making sure that people are in the know. I was here at one of the sessions yesterday, which I found awesome because it's just so much information about, compliance regulations with marketing.
Oh, sure.
And I had, probably 6 pages of notes that I'm going to take back to my team. But I'm not going to give them all 6 pages at once, So there's just like little
just
things.
5 pages.
That's kind
of
you, yeah.
You just made the list.
So we're going to be working on some of, those things, just making sure that they're across the board, which we do that pretty often. But that's the way that I handle most of the communication. And then, like you said, it's across multi-campuses, and every campus has their own culture.
Right.
But I love that. I think that's what makes our little world go round. So we have, structured ways that we do things. We don't have scripts, or anything like that. We have outlines of how we would
Guides.
want, yes, because we want them to be obviously compliant, helping the students. But I like seeing their personalities blend in there too.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I think there's very few things that are all good or all bad. And there's certainly there's challenges to having multiple locations, but what you're describing is actually a lot of the opportunities as well. It seems like there's an opportunity to knowledge share, test things out. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, is there sort of knowledge
feedback
transfers?
loops?
There we go. Yeah, that's the right word.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, so like something that it picked up from one campus to transfer to another that was really helpful. Advice from a campus. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of nods, so please just go for it.
All the time, and that's what's so cool is that it happens all the time. So, I have experienced directors of admissions that have been with us for 10 plus years.
Yeah.
And then I have newer, DOAs who have been there maybe 2 years at the most. So best practices is always happening. And a lot of the times, I will call on, our director of admissions in Miami. They're very process driven. They've had a cohesive team there for over a decade.
Oh, wow.
And so I'll be like, hey, why don't you share with us what you all have been doing? And then I'll ask, is that something that you feel like would transfer over to your campus? And hey, sometimes we have to put our own tweak on it.
Sure.
But for the most part, it's let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's learn from one another. And I think it's really good when they hear from their peer versus me constantly, So.
Being in admissions has always been a difficult, I don't want to say difficult, but most rewarding a career somebody can get into. It's not recognized typically as a career. Nobody goes into college and pops out and says, you know what, I want to be in college admissions. It's a lot of times in a traditional institution, you might have been a student and now you end up in admissions, or you were in sales somewhere and you go into education admissions because you want to help students and have the sales pay off, but in a different way. Relationship building. Keeping people in admissions has always been very difficult. And so you see like ACRO and others come out and say that the average shelf life, so to speak, of somebody who's working in admissions is 2 to 3 years, and then they move on. You just mentioned that you have so many, maybe that you've had a cohesive team in some of your institutions with people who've been there for years. What's the secret? What's the secret to keeping people in enrollment?
Question.
It is a great question.
I only ask great questions, Douglas.
I'm a firm believer in treating people how you want to be treated. And, in all of our institutions, for someone to work in admissions, they have to have a 4-year degree. So these are educated individuals,
yes.
And they all bring something to the table. So whether they're a director of admissions or an assistant director of admissions or even a senior or an admissions coordinator, I'm constantly looking for those folks to have an opportunity to grow. But I just started a admissions leadership committee, and I kind of cast a larger net, and I was really excited about the participation that we had with that. But it's having them to be engaged in more than just the day-to-day, but also making sure that they have all the tools to be successful. They see the opportunity to grow. They have an understanding that working with every department so closely in the organization, that's normally where people grow from.
Yeah.
So I think it's a lot of the encouragement, the nurturing, and just making sure that they enjoy what they do.
I find that, and sorry, Douglas, I have
Please.
just one quick follow-up. I don't know if you know ACAP, the association here, and they do like an admission certification, and
Yeah.
there's ways to do professional development, which I love. But there's this, and I don't know if it exists still in your institution or others, where, we've got Douglas, he's over in admissions. If we pull him to get him involved in this project, then he's not going to be as focused on the admissions numbers as he needs to be. And I've always found that very limiting for people in admissions. I want Douglas involved in that because, he's not going to be as focused on those numbers in that moment. But the more I get him involved in this other thing over here, the more knowledge he gains, and the more he's going to feel like this is a career, not just a stop in the ladder. I mean, you could be in admissions for 15 years if you want to and be paid and rewarded. And that's the part I think we have to change in career colleges and in any college is this is a viable, amazing professional career. What do you think?
I agree wholeheartedly, Joe. I mean, like you said, the shelf life sometimes is 2 to 3 years,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes it's even more minimal than that. And if you have a great employee, I think that you find ways to help them to grow and you help them to see, where that future can take them. I was one of those people.
Yep. Me too.
And I remember like applying for the regional position, and my boss was like, "But we don't want to lose you here." And I was like, I want to grow.
Right, there it
so I'm
is,
either
right.
going to grow or I'm going to go. And
Right.
that's why, I tend to look at when we have excellent employees. I actually just had an admissions coordinator who I think was a great employee, right bus, wrong seat.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
so, I spoke with this individual. I was like, I really looked at your predictive index. I think that you would be a great fit for financial aid. Because I don't want to lose you as an employee.
Right.
You're on time. You come in with a great attitude. You're punctual, but I want you to be happy and successful.
By the way, if you can stack your financial aid department with great admissions people who know financial aid, it really helps a little.
It does, right? Way to bridge the gap.
Yep.
I also love the Jim Collins analogy, right? Right bus, wrong seat, and it's so important to recognize that. So I really applaud you for making sure you get the right people in the right place. Because not everybody's meant to be in financial aid, not everybody's meant to be in admissions, and it's about finding that right place. So I really applaud you for that. I'd be curious to go down the marketing path here. So we talked a lot about admissions, and obviously you have two hats.
Sorry, that's my fault because I love it.
Oh, I know you do.
I can talk
it's
about it
good
all
space.
day. So
Tell us a little bit about what's going on in marketing. How are you thinking about it? What are the big initiatives? What are some best practices you might throw out to some other folks?
Sure. Going back to, 5 campuses in 3 states,
Yep.
you got to get creative in some of those markets. So, we have a really decent footprint in Florida. Charlotte is a very saturated market. We are very inquiry rich there.
Yeah.
And then you hop over to Charleston and it's just getting creative to get inquiries.
Got it.
So, we actually work with MDT is our marketing, and they're great because we have weekly calls with that.
Outstanding.
We have weekly calls which we're able to come on and we talk about what's going well, what are we faced with as far as challenges, what can we do better. And so one of the things that we've struggled with in that particular Charleston market is just the quality and quantity. So sometimes it's one or it's the other.
Yeah.
But we're having an issue with both. So, we put our heads together the other day. Their portfolio is expanding. So we've done a lot more outdoor in that particular market.
Oh, interesting.
It
Okay.
is interesting, right? Because I'm like, outdoor, I'm
Like-
over that, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
there's so much more
for
digital.
people that want, it's like, okay, billboards and bus stop ads, and there's a lot of outdoor that it's hard to ROI it. That's why people don't do it, is typically because it's
is.
hard to track it.
It is, and at first I was just like, I don't know,
Yeah.
and it's, like when you're looking at your budget and everything, it's like, okay, how am I going to follow this? But we have these little posters all over the Charleston market, and they have been excellent there, surprisingly.
Excellent.
So we're happy about that. But then you move on over to like the other campuses. We do a lot of geo fencing, geo targeting
Yeah.
with different things, which has been really cool. Like that's a great learning experience. And with our early childhood education program in Florida, we actually have about 9 schools in Palm Beach County high schools that offer an early childhood education program.
Yep.
So we've partnered a lot with those folks too. Just making sure that their students have the opportunity to continue to get either their associate's degree or their bachelor's degree. But yeah, marketing's it's a new age, especially with AI and everything
Changing
else.
daily.
It
Yes.
changes daily.
It's very hard to keep up with it, especially, as you're in a role like yours where you're a step away from the detail sometimes, where you've got somebody or MDT who's running geofencing and they're targeting, and you're just going, how many leads are coming in? What are we doing with them? What's the cost? How do I understand ROI? And then the changes, like the Google changes and all of that, it's very hard to understand. I've found, as I was in a role similar to yours, just to keep up with, like, what the heck is going on?
For sure. We were all looking at like Chat GPT, this time last year, and what was that going to do?
That's so
and then,
right.
Now it's really changed everything. As far as like going through and just making sure that, your landing pages and the keywords and, are those aligning with what's happening in Bing and Chat GPT and all the other, AI formats. And then, we have all these marketing regulations now too. So, you're having to comb through every ounce of your marketing on a pretty much, normal basis.
Yeah. Also review every page of your website. Make sure that any disclaimer is there. There's rules, the regulations coming down where you have to put the program value calculations, and there's so many things that you have to do in a rule. I respect you so much because there's so many opportunities for mistakes. So you have to keep so much straight as a CMO / chief enrollment officer. So kudos to you and the work, because it's
you.
not easy. And what do you do to keep yourself going? Because you know what, start after start after start after start, and year after year after year, it can burn out even the most passionate people. What's your secret to keeping your engine going?
I think you just have to be a consistent student of your profession. That's what keeps me going. I've learned so much in the last year. Partnering with Douglas and Andrew Tenzer and team there, with the rollout
Douglas
of our
Carlson?
Squared. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
And then, just learning every single day something that I can take back to our team. What can get us excited? What can make our jobs easier? We help, hundreds of students. What can we do to make sure that we're communicating to them more efficiently too? So that's what makes me tick. Other than that, I'm a dog mom.
Okay.
and they also help me keep going too. So
Very good. Anything else you want to add, Douglas, before we close this one out?
So the last piece I always want to kind of talk about is, what do you think is the future? What's your crystal ball? And like you're a really interesting vantage point because you have both marketing and admissions. So you see really the early trends. Where do you think education is going? What's going to look like over the next 5 years? What's going to stay the same? What's going to change?
It's a great question. It's definitely something that we have to stay on top of as far as knowledge and making sure that, we're educating our rule makers.
Sure.
Big component of that. But yeah, I think that we're going to see more and more vocational opportunities for students. I don't know if there's even a way to say the traditional education route anymore. I'm a little
Sure.
iffy on that. The traditional and non-traditional, I think that's going to be definitely a different thing. But I think we will see, more of the shorter term programs. I think that for our industry, we just have to make sure that we're doing right and, following our integrity and our processes, to help all of the students that are looking for that quicker program, quicker way to get into their careers, because that only strengthens our communities and our economies.
Well, there you have it, everybody. Such a great episode, and thank you for your feedback and transparency. And because it's, you know what, if you hear about everything going on in higher ed these days, it's so many people are leaving. So I give so much credit to those that are sticking by their students and sticking it out. So I appreciate you very much. I also appreciate my co-host. He's Douglas Carlson. I like saying it now. With Lead Squared, whose generosity allows us to be here to interview my guest today, your guest today. She's Dana Hutton. She's Chief Marketing and Enrollment Management Officer at Southeastern College. Dana, thanks for being here. Did you have a good time while we were at it?
I had a blast. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd.